Of an immigration stalemate. There are multiple plans in play, but none will be put to a vote before the August recess. Now, a bipartisan group called the Latino Jewish Congressional Caucus has come up with its own ideas about what should be in any immigration plan. Joining us now, Republican Congresswoman Ileana Ross-Lehtinen and Democratic Congressman Elliot Engel, both members of this group. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right, Congressman, I'll start with you. Let's talk a little bit about what the American people think about this immigration debate. Our recent polling shows that whether they believe it's likely that comprehensive immigration reform will actually happen this year, 36% say very or somewhat likely, but 58% say they don't think it's going to happen. How do you respond?
Well, I think people say it's not going to happen because they look at Congress. It seems to be dysfunctional. We can't agree on anything. And people are pessimistic. But I disagree. I think that fundamental immigration reform will happen. I think both parties will come to the conclusion that it should happen, and we're working together to try to make it happen, and I think it will happen. It may not be the program that everybody would like, but I think there's enough compromise in the mainstream that we'll be able to have a comprehensive immigration reform bill.
And you are working across the aisle. One of your colleagues on the Republican side, of course, is the Congresswoman who has joined us. Congresswoman, tell us a little bit about what some of the keys are in this plan and what you think the viability, the reality is of actually getting some of them passed.
Well, I'm very proud of this Latino-Jewish coalition because both of our populations have been immigrants. We've left our homelands to seek better opportunities here in the United States and freedom and democracy. Some left many years ago, and some in my community, Cuban Americans, left as recently as today. What we have is we share common goals toward immigration reform. And why do we have those goals? Well, because we at the same time face discrimination, both Latino and Jewish communities here in this wonderful country. And at the same time, we try to assimilate, become part of the American society, while at the same time maintaining our culture and our roots. And that's what we want to do with this immigration reform, is bring common sense thoughts into this process so that, yes, we secure our borders, that's forefront, but at the same time integrate immigrants into American society. And if we talk more about the integration aspect of immigration reform, people will feel more comfortable because they'll think this is not going to be a standalone group that'll have its own set of rights. This is part of our American fabric, part of our American society. So this coalition can bring our nation together in favor of immigration reform.
All right, Congressman, she mentioned border reform, border security. Of course, that is at the top of the list for a lot of folks. Another polling result that we have are requiring new border security first before changing immigration policies. 69% of those we surveyed said that's the key, doing border security first. Just 20% oppose that. How stiff is border enforcement in what you're looking at, what you're proposing? How would you enforce it?
Well, I think, first of all, it has to come simultaneously. And let me say I agree with everything my colleague just said. You need to make sure that there is a stiffened border because people think that that's what should happen. I mean, we got into trouble in the first place because we didn't have adequate border patrol. But at the other hand, we do have 11 million undocumented people who are here. They're here to stay. They're not going back. It's foolish to think that they can go back or will go back. And so we need to find a way to make them Americans. And I think the bill in the Senate was a good compromise. It may not satisfy everybody to each degree, but you need to have strengthening patrols at the borders and making sure that we control our borders. We have to control our borders. At the same time, we have to give these people a path to citizenship. Again, they're here. They're not going back. It's kind of silly to have them live on the margins. They work. They pay taxes. They do jobs that many people don't want to do. And I think what we need is comprehensive reform. Now, whether the House divides it into 5 or 6 bills, it doesn't really matter. As long as the end product is the same, I think it would be a lost opportunity if we didn't do immigration reform in this Congress, and I think it would really be a shame. Now, let me just say the bill that the Senate passed is a bill that would take 11, 12, 13 years for people who are undocumented to become citizens. I think that's a pretty stiff penalty, and I don't really think that's an amnesty. They would have to work their way towards citizenship. They have to learn English. They have to pay a fine. At the same time, we're strengthening the borders. So I think it's a win for everybody.
All right, and Congresswoman, just very quickly, we're just about out of time, but I want to ask you to respond to critics who say these kinds of plans are simply rewarding people whose, many of them, their first action is coming here illegally. Their first action on U.S. soil is committing a crime.
I don't think so, because the bill calls for heavy penalties. It calls for them to be good citizens, to learn English, to know civic education, and to get in the back of the line of all of the people who have broken no laws and had come here and been waiting their turn at bat. So this doesn't reward bad behavior, not at all. In fact, some of the more vocal pro-immigrant groups don't like this aspect of the bills that we're discussing, because they think 15 years to wait for citizenship, that's far too long. So they're going to be lobbying for a far more moderate bill. That's not going to happen. I think this is a good, balanced approach. The House will take up a piecemeal approach. Paul Ryan said he thinks we may have it by October, and I think coalitions is what we need to do. That's what our Latino Jewish coalition is all about. We need to build bridges between Democrats and Republicans and get our nation and get our economy going again, and immigrants are a big part of that by paying the fees and paying the fines, and that'll be good for the economy.
All right, Congresswoman Ross-Leigh
Paying taxes.
And Congressman Engel, thank you both very much, and we'll keep an eye on your progress.